Task complete.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. This is episode 4 of the revamp series where I take previous models that I've made on the channel and I revamp them with a new style of design that I'm currently incorporating. And today we're going to be talking about the Zahara class assault ship. It used to be called the assault frigate, but there's a reason why it's an assault ship now. So right from the get-go you can see that there is a significant size increase on this model, and there is a reasoning for that. So one of the reasons is, as you can see, the ground control 1 dropship that I made a video on last week. This was the little mock-up that I made for scaling issues that I was having with this spacecraft. So this is what I was going to run with initially, but then I was like, nah, I'm gonna go more in detail and in depth on that, and the other video shows the results of that. But the ship that I wanted to make that could utilize that dropship is the Zahara. Now, going back to kind of the reason for existence, the raison d'etre of the Zahara, was I wanted a ship that could kind of act on its own and act as a marine assault ship kind of vessel. So it could fight in fleet combat, can hold its own against, some kinds of capital ships like cruisers, battle cruisers on occasion. It's not meant to, initially go up against those ships, but it can hold its own against them and get away from them if need be. But that's what I wanted the Zahara to pretty much inherit, and I also wanted it to be able to deploy, troops and vehicles in mass, which is why I have like the vehicle drop pods, the ordinance or turret drop pods here, and then I have regular drop pod bays on the bottom here. And then of course, it's lagging. Wonderful. I took the concept from Halo 3, where there's the kind of loading bay on the bottom of the frigate. I decided to add that onto the Zahara as well. So this one was pretty unique for a frigate, definitely, because it kind of takes away from the idea of a frigate, because frigates are usually kind of specialized craft that either are, like, for instance, missile frigates or ion frigates in the case of Homeworld, or torpedo frigates. They're dedicated ships for one specific function, but the Zahara kind of blurs that line, which is why I was like, okay, maybe it shouldn't be necessarily called a frigate, it should be called an assault ship, because it's precisely that's what it's doing. It's sending troops to provide, support on the ground and, conduct assaults. So I made the ship larger because it's pretty much its own class now. I don't have to kind of restrict its size too much now, since I know what it's going to be doing. And I increased its basically its capacity so it can hold a lot more units, stuff like that. Went in, of course, I took some of the remodel turrets from the Kairos remodel and I implemented them here. Took the missile, the vertical launch missile tubes, added them. I increased some of the turret sizes for some turrets. As you can see here, these are a bit smaller here, and on this side they're larger. And one thing that I really liked about the setup that I have in the front here is that it can have multiple configurations. So if I was to design like several different turrets with this kind of style, they can be placed on here to add more weapon systems. In this configuration right now, I call it the standard config. So it doesn't have all of its utilized hardpoints, all of its hardpoints utilized, excuse me. But there is a possibility that that could be the case depending on what kind of mission it's going to be going on. One thing that I definitely like to emphasize about this too is the drop pod bays. So I made a larger section for that. I even have like section doors, doors that actually open and close, ideally for this. So that's cool. And then just to make a comparison here for these Zaharas, yeah, the original Zahara didn't have doors that could close, so it kind of let them to be exposed, or let that section to be exposed. So yeah, I should probably add doors for this section here at one point, but it's besides the point right now. So another big thing that I really liked about this model is that it has, I think, the perfect amount of modeling detail and perfect surface area for texturing. I think this model probably has the most promise as far as a texturing standpoint goes. Hopefully, this is a theory. I haven't actually started texturing anything just yet, but I think this one is going to be a lot of fun. This one should be relatively easy and cool to texture and make really nice. So we will see when that point comes. Another big change was the engine area of the Zahara. So as you can see, the old one still had the Halo style engine section, you know, but just beefier armor and stuff like that, because like I said, you know, this thing was ideally it could contend with larger vessels and hold its own for a little while. So the armor, I wanted to reflect that. And then I also had an extra thruster pack, so it can actually go faster in some situations as well. So that was something that I thought that was really cool about the old one. But with the new one, I decided to go with just a standard engine bay, but I just wanted to make it larger to kind of compensate for the size difference now that we're dealing with. And the engines overall are just larger, so they can provide, you know, enough power to propel the spacecraft and stuff like that. And then I went into a little bit more detail with the engine cone and all that jazz. So yeah, it looks really cool. Let's see. I also wanted to add more maneuvering engines. I noticed that the Zahara of the old Zahara actually didn't have as many maneuvering engines as I have wanted. So I was like, okay, well, let me reevaluate this. You know, it's a bigger ship, so let's add some more detail and more maneuvering engines around, especially on the bottom, since it can go into atmosphere and it can hold itself in place. So I wanted to kind of reflect that with the amount of engines on the bottom, so it can actually keep itself level in the altitude proper. One thing that I also took from one of my other frigate models was the little command section. One of my scout frigate models had this, and you know, of course, it had the horrible detailing here, where these giant windows, you know, which were extremely exposed, were there. And the idea for that was to have like another, I guess, dedicated section for ground assaults and stuff like that. You know, the bridge would be separate, and then they have like another CIC for ground assaults. So that was the reasoning behind that, and I kept that idea, but I just modified it so number one, it wasn't that exposed, and then, you know, it was armored, and it still kind of fit with the rest of the ship, and it does. And I think it really brings out that area of the ship. This one is actually just really, it's really balanced. I really liked the flow of just the detailing and the overall silhouette of the ship. This one took me a while to figure out as well, because I didn't know what exactly I wanted to do with the forward section here and how I was going to incorporate like different landing bays and stuff. Was I gonna have like something like this still? I was playing around with the shapes with this, and I just didn't like the way this was going, so I ended up going with the kind of these two pylons, these four pylons here, and then having the larger hangar bays here right under it. So the assault ship can launch, you know, 4 of these heavyweight dropships with lots of troops and vehicles and stuff. And then I also have the Pelicans here for size comparison, and they have their own hangar bays and stuff like that. So small craft and other vehicles can launch and be stored in these areas. Now, of course, these areas are extremely exposed, so in combat, this assault ship is probably going to be in a bit of a more vulnerable state than the old Zahara, given that, you know, the hangars were kind of small and they were just kind of on the side here. But now a good chunk of the side is, you know, hangar bays now. So one accurately guided shot, you know, could punch a hole through here, you know, and just cause a whole bunch of damage. So yeah, I can bite this ship in the ass, you know, in the future. Another thing I also added was the turret from the Kairos destroyer, the heavyweight pulsar turret. And the reason why I added that was because I got inspiration from this game called Strike Suit Zero, and there was the kind of the standard enemy forces that we fight in, or that you fight as like the main character in like the beginning couple of missions, and then there is, you know, this special forces group, or special forces fleet, if you will, called the Black Fleet, and they were, you know, the elite forces of the I think it was like the colonial military. So they had like all these experienced pilots, you know, these upgraded spacecraft and stuff like that. And one of the things that I noticed was that their destroyer model for the Black Fleet actually had more powerful weaponry than the standard destroyer in the standard military. So I took that idea and was like, you know, what if a frigate, well, not a frigate, in this case an assault ship now, has like some destroyer level weaponry, you know, so it can actually contend with other ships and stuff like that, and really be able to pack a punch. So that was the reason why I added these turrets here, and I thought that was really cool. And ideally, these ships would be used by like special forces, or, you know, kind of independent forces, because in the fleet, these ships kind of don't really make sense, mainly because they are for troop deployment and stuff like that. And when you have, you know, a fleet like a cruiser, you have multiple frigates, and, you know, you have, or even stronger case for the situation would be if there's a carrier involved. The assault ship is honestly, it doesn't really make sense, because you have all those units that can be deployed from the assault ship stored in the carrier, or the frigates and cruisers can deploy a sizable ground force by themselves. So really, this ship would only be, if I was to make a case for it in a fleet like that, it would be really just for utility, for being able to deploy troops in mass and in a single, you know, kind of one-off drop, versus, you know, deploying from multiple craft like the cruisers and frigates would do. So that's why this one is a special case, and it's not necessarily just a frigate anymore. So yeah, that is the Zahara remodel that I've done, guys, and thank you very much for supporting the channel. I'm hearing that these videos are actually really welcomed and people are liking them, so I'm definitely going to be doing more of them, and I will also be doing more live streams and stuff like that too. I still have to finish the new capital ship, which I still have to give a name for, and a name for the class as well as a name for the ship that I'm doing. So be looking out for that. That one might be the stream might be tonight, depending on if anything pops up randomly in life. So definitely be looking out for that. And with the next episodes on as far as the series goes, we're probably going to be getting into remodeling some turrets. So be looking out for that. That's going to be really fun. And after I go through a couple of turrets, we're probably going to be revisiting some old fighter craft, some small craft, because I've been working on a lot of capital ships and stuff of that nature for a while now. So we're going to get into some small stuff. We're going to probably get into some ground vehicles. And yeah, this is going to be a whole bunch of cool things that we're going to be working on.